Hello, everyone. This is Christina Barr, and you're watching Black Tea News. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Black Tea News. I am your host, Christina Barr, and today we're going to be talking about Netflix. And this is a story that's been going on for a while, ever since Dave Chappelle. He released a new special that was on Netflix, and people are upset because, as always, Dave Chappelle makes a lot of jokes, but people are upset about the trans jokes. And now Netflix had a walkout yesterday. We were going to talk about it, but we ran out of time. We were talking about it all day yesterday. Kids getting vaccinated, and yeah, that's so an important show yesterday. But and so I was going to do that on the tail end, and I just did not have enough time. And it's pretty silly, pretty ridiculous. And I told my church about it. Well, I led a Bible study after I did my broadcast later that night, and so I did open up with how we need to do something about the culture just in general, and we need to be that salt to the earth. And I did mention Netflix, and they were just like floored about, because they're not as plugged into as I'm plugged in, and they'll get a lot of news from me, but they were just floored that, since he obviously made jokes about a lot of people, and he he made jokes, but he also let it be known that he's not anti-trans or anything like that. But people don't care, and you have a bully mob, and as long as you get a vocal minority who can say whatever, they believe they can bully people into doing what they want, and it's just going to continue to grow. And that's what's been happening in all of our institutions, basically. So it's important for people to push back, and that's what we talk about a little bit today. Also, um, Merrick Garland, who people were so pressed, they were so mad that he wasn't on the Supreme Court, and now he's, head of the DOJ and as Attorney General, and we dodged a bullet with that one, guys. We dodged a bullet, and I thought that some of the questions and stuff he wouldn't answer while he was being grilled about being attorney general, because most people were like, oh yeah, sure, he seems like a stand-up dude or whatever, because they thought he was a pretty moderate candidate when Obama nominated him, or so they thought maybe there wouldn't be a big fuss. And then they, of course, went all gangsta on him, McConnell and them, and just wouldn't let him have this whole committee and be seen and stuff. And so Democrats have been mad about that for 4 years. And now he's attorney general, and seemed like he's someone who doesn't really understand justice in a fairness sort of way. And so he's being grilled on Capitol Hill about they're looking into teachers. um, they actually censored the Republicans like live on TV, and which was pretty interesting, because they didn't want them to play a clip of parents at school board meetings. They're like, you didn't give a 48-hour notice. It's in the rules. And Jim Jordan's just like, it's a procedure. It's not in the rules. It's not in a committee rules. And they're like, yes, it is. And they would not let him air it. And they're just like, why are you afraid of parents speaking out? So anyway, you had, I believe his National School Board Association, like writing, saying that the teachers are in danger, or there's been like things that you need to look into, even use things like the Patriot Act if you need to. And we talked about this on the show, that one of the things that they cited was the parent from Loudoun County who was arrested. And he was there not to really pick sides about the trans issue and whatever, but his daughter was sexually assaulted in a bathroom. And they must have known about it. There was an interview with the local county sheriff who's like, they must have known about it. One of the school board members resigned, but the superintendent still hasn't stepped down. Daily Wire did a story on it, and it has gotten more local attention there. It's gotten more national attention, and it seems like some things are getting done. That man who assaulted her was officially arrested. So that's good, obviously, but It's crazy that it had to get this way. And so you had a man who went to a meeting, and granted, it did get a little rowdy, but he's obviously emotional. But they plastered his face as if he was the face of domestic terrorism, and they listed him in this document citing, "Hey, we need the federal government to look into these parents who are violent or whatever." And the Justice Department had to go off of was this letter that they sent them. He's not armed with Merrick Garland isn't armed with like data about attacks and other stuff like that. Someone could have at least written him like a memo so they could just pretend. So that's what's going on right now with Garland. It's just really insane. But people should not be surprised that the Biden administration is willing to politicize and weaponize these levers of power, because they obviously did that in the Obama administration. And I know that's so long ago to a lot of people, but we're just repeating the same. We're just repeating the same thing, except it's worse now. Except it's absolutely worse now. And I'm kind of jumping ahead a little bit. Let me back up and say I do want to thank Brighter Michigan PAC for allowing me to use their studio. As always, they do not care if I trigger you. It doesn't work like that. And I'm just using the space, and I appreciate it. Being sponsored allowed me to use the space, but there's no one to fire me. No one cares if you're triggered. You can just keep scrolling or whatever. However you're watching me, you can just move on. No one cares. Go cry in a black teacup or something. Send you one in the mail after you pay for it, of course. Also, please go to blacktnews.com. Check out different content that we have. Check out different merchandise. I am sporting my goat hoodie today. I told you guys I was freezing yesterday. I told you in the studio. It's a lot warmer today, but perhaps because I have my hoodie on. Perhaps because my hoodie is on. But make sure that you guys go to the website and check out the different merchandise that we have. Long sleeve, short sleeve, things that can arm you with information about how Biden is a racist, and got Trump shirts, all these other kinds of stuff. We got seasonal stuff. Where's my? This isn't seasonal, but man, I'm getting into so many arguments about abortion on TikTok and stuff. People are mad at me. Pause. People are so mad at me. So I did a video 2 days ago, and in a person with a bigger account, I did a video about one of their videos, and then they replied to me. So a lot of their followers just came and and to argue, and have so many comments. My notifications just keep popping up, but I guess it's all good for the algorithm and views and so on. But so many people have called me a pick-me, an Uncle Tom, and a token within the past few days. And I'm like, man, the whole philosophical ideology of the pro-choice movement is mind your business, right? But they get so pressed about other people who share a different opinion. Why don't you just let me argue with the women who are really for it, or having it or something? If you really believe same men who have quoted "no uterus, no opinion" will come to me in my comments and say such terrible things to me. And so anyway, you're calling me pick me and all this other kind of stuff, and it's just really baffling. I guess that my feelings aren't hurt, but it was mean. But my feelings weren't hurt. But they said, only just so you know, and I can't find this comment because I was gonna make a video reply, my phone went crazy and it shut down, and I tried to find it, but I couldn't find it. I didn't even remember what video that they left it under. But they said, just so you know, they said you're fighting to be picked or something like that. Just so you know, they only let girls like Candace Owens and Tommy Lauren be on TV. It's and it was a woman who said that, so just internalized misogyny right there, I guess. And I'm just like, I was gonna say, if you're gay for Candace Owens and Tommy Lauren, that's your prerogative. But I mean, they're not my thing. But I don't know. There's a lot of people who will say stuff like that because they assume that other people are seeking validation. And granted, there are a lot of people who do that, especially on TikTok. And some of their opinions will be so wild. I think it's kind of more obvious than others. But if you watch a bunch of my videos, I think it's pretty obvious that I'm doubled down in my ideology. like I'm pretty rooted in it. So the insincerity thing just doesn't work. And I'm obviously a Christian. So it's whether you agree with my ideology, it's pretty obvious that it makes sense that I am a conservative Christian Republican. If you go far back enough, I not even that far back enough, I've talked about working for the Michigan Republican Party and so on. Like I have a history of being involved that predates my TikTok involvement. So it from that standpoint, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense if I was an attention seeker like that. Um, I mean, I could just wear some low cut stuff and just say some leftist crazy stuff and just be a I know the Lizzo of politics, I guess. Because conservative counts can go down really fast, and there's been a lot of conservatives who've had to remake their accounts. So if I really wanted attention, it would be much easier to just be a BLM pronouns in your bio kind of thing and get the attention from the clapping seals all the time. Like, why would I want to purposely attract such negativity with people calling me sellouts and all the other kind of stuff? So it what because I'm some kind of sadist or something? Because I want like negative attention on me like that. No, I turn it into good content. Don't get me wrong. And when they say things, sometimes depending on what the comment is, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm gonna get them. I'm gonna reply to them. I was sad I couldn't reply to this girl because I lost her comment. Um, but it's just really ridiculous. But there's a lot of people today who have incredibly low self-esteem, and they can't fathom that other people don't. So it makes sense to them that other people would say things just to go along with the crowd. I don't care if I have to be the only one with my opinion. I will stand alone in a room if I have to. And I've had to do that, including in a room full of other Republicans. Including in a room full of other Republicans. It's some I won't get to specifics, but I was at an event work with colleagues and stuff, and there was something that popped up, and I tried to just kind of explain it, and I still think I was right, and all of them were heated in an emotional response, and I'm trying to break it down logically, and then they're like, "Your own sister doesn't agree with you." And the fact that they tried to use that against me, oh my, like my hairs on the back of my neck. By the way, my middle name is Latoya. And it was kind of like a sort of moment. And I was like, I don't care what she says. Like that has no bearing on me. Now, if you're wrong and you should be able to analyze and sometimes I mean there's obviously wisdom and good counsel, but sometimes people are just trying to bully you into the wrong opinion. So again, I even still looking back, I think they had an emotional response, especially in hindsight of the situation. But if I have to be the standalone opinion, I will. So it's just fascinating. I don't need the adulation or whatever. And I've been on TV before, by the way. Candace Owens isn't on TV anyway. I mean, she gets called on the TV and stuff, but I've like done local stuff and whatnot. But it doesn't matter. I'm doing my thing, they're doing their thing, and hopefully, you watch, I watch, and hopefully, we grow together and the numbers get better, and I'm doing well on my TikTok. Got, I passed the 60,000 mark. So that's good news. That's amazing. But these people are really puzzling. And then they get upset. Well, not upset, but they're just like, they say conservatives or Republicans are racist because they claim it's just a party full of white old men, which isn't even true. But because they think that there's a lack of diversity, that's their proof that there's racism there. But if I say, hey, no, I'm a Republican, they think that's proof that I'm a sellout. So they'll never allow just any sort of intellectual honesty because they or any intellectual diversity if they can help it because they don't want that to be a diverse party at all. They want to keep having that talking point and they resent the fact that I'm over here doing my thing, just being who I am. And the most ironic thing about the people asking, did they pick you? Yes. Because we all share certain ideology, and that's the most important thing. So if you think they're racist, and if they're so racist, my ideology wouldn't really matter, right? They would still not want me around because the race is going to be the most important thing. But it's not a factor. Not really. So we vote for similar people, we have similar values, we support them, we fight for them. So the whole, I don't know, pick me thing is just bizarre. But anyway, that's what the pro-choicers have been calling me for the past couple days. And normally it I've had like spurts of people calling me that consistently, but usually it'd have to be like because I did a race specific topic video or something. And they're just mad because I don't think it's okay to kill babies. Like so they're calling me racial slurs. So that's the tolerant left. I just thought I would keep you guys up to date with that. But anyway, back to the t-shirt. My Money, My Business is available on blacktnews.com. If you are interested, you can pick up that shirt today because if they want your taxpayer dollars involved, then you should at least be able to have a say, regardless of whether the fact you have a uterus or not. Also, we have these pumpkin spice season stuff, and you guys can check that out on the website. So, we were way past our funny of the day, but I do want to still mention it. So this one was a courtesy of Donald Trump Jr. My sister showed me this, and she's like, "You got to talk about this subject. You got to talk about the subject." With Dave Chappelle and the Cuties. Now, if you do not recall Cuties, that was a movie about a girl who I think the actress was, I don't know, maybe like 11. She's really young. And she wanted to join like a twerking dance competition. And there's these other girls in the group. And so it's like a coming of age awakening sort of story. And then at the end, like when she's actually doing her provocative dance moves and stuff, she comes to realize, that it's wrong, I guess, and goes off the stage crying. And there's lots of different themes and stuff, but it's just really, really a lot for girls their ages to do, especially the lead actress, which they auditioned a lot of children for, an alarming amount. And there was a lot of takes from people on the left and the right commentating on it. I talked about it. I don't know if I talked about it on the show before, but I definitely mentioned it a lot online and argue with people about it online. The crazy thing about the left, though, is that they were trying to make it seem, and I mean like mainstream sort of verified checkmark kind of left. I don't mean just like Democrats in general, because there were like Democrats were like, nah, this is gross. But they were trying to make it seem like the response to Cuties was all QAnon. Like it was a QAnon get together, bring down Cuties sort of thing, because they were saying that they believe that Trump was going to save us from the pedophiles, which was so funny when Trump was asked about that in a press conference, like QAnon thinks that you're going to save us from pedophiles. And Trump was just like, is that a bad thing? Like that, okay, yeah, I would like to do that. Like, is so I heard one person once say that people talking about QAnon, that the conspiracy theories that they have with all the pedophile stuff is like, that's not a conspiracy, but they said the conspiracy is they think someone's going to save us. I'm like, that is dark. That is dark. But the strangest thing about the QAnon stuff is, and I knew people who were like deep into it, and they believe some really out there things, especially like when the election contested thing was going on and Trump was fighting, for the it to be overturned and fraud and all the other stuff. There was stuff people were saying every day. Um, but the thing that they seemed most obsessed about was QAnon's obsession with elites in Hollywood and lovers of power being into pedophilia. So that was really odd to me, that out of all the things that they can complain about QAnon, that's the thing they wanted to go after. So once it became really, really obvious that there was a lot of people out there who were really pushing for the cuties and saying, there were a lot of people defending it, and there are a lot of people starting to say that no, that's a QAnon thing. There were people in the left who'd be like, no, I think that's gross. I think that's weird. Like, please do not say that as like just a conservative thing. So anyway, they're fine with that, but of course they're like, Dave Chappelle, angry about Dave Chappelle. So Dave Chappelle did a Netflix special, and people are still mad about it. And so Netflix decided to have, there was a couple employees, they decided to have a walkout. It wasn't a big like protest. Like, I've been to big protests. I've been to mild protests. There was a moderately small protest. And I saw footage. There was people who just had like, I like Dave signs or jokes are funny. People's mad, like tearing the signs down. And it really wasn't a big deal, but it got international press, and people are talking about it because obviously they want to push an agenda as much as they can. And so they want people to know people are mad about this. They will come after you if your company does not comply to these sort of things. So at first, the CEO was like, artistic expression is important, and just because someone says something doesn't mean that it's like violence. And people were upset, and so he told people that he had made a mistake, or he had messed up. And so he walked it back, and it was like, well, you know what, I didn't realize how much this hurt people would mean to people. And so there are people staging demands of Netflix, which I guess not necessarily that they not even have to show those stuff again, but that there needs to be a disclaimer at least. And I don't know, they want more money or whatever. I don't know. It's all very nonsense, but it's crazy to me. And I mentioned that I told this to my Bible study, and they were really confused because some of them had watched it, and they're like, it just doesn't. And they pointed out places in the special where he let it be known that he wasn't anti-trans. Like, just because you make some jokes doesn't. People joke about everything. And it's crazy that this is the thing that they want to like get him for, and they were mad about that. And the last one I saw, I haven't seen this one. I just saw some clips here and there, but he had one in the other. I don't know if it was the other one or maybe one before it, but he had made jokes about pedophilia. Because he said he didn't believe that Michael Jackson, I think, molested anyone, because Macaulay Culkin said that Michael Jackson never touched him, and he's like, oh, you're gonna get a kid. It'd be him. That's a gross joke. Sometimes people make really, it happens. I said that word so wrong. They make jokes that should just not really be acceptable in our society. But comedians push the envelope way, 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 way all the time. And out of all the things that could really offend you, making jokes like, they're like, Dave, they're after you. And he's like, who is they? Like, how many are you talking about? Like, one person? Is it plural? Is it singular? Like that's the kind of jokes Dave would tell. And one thing that was really interesting that he pointed out was that there was a rapper who like literally shot someone. And like that didn't end his career, but he said something about some trans, and that's what people were upset about. So if you have a class of people who are just too protected that you can't even make jokes or do any sort of criticism, there's jokes for everybody. People make I don't like when people make blasphemy jokes, but that doesn't stop people from making religious jokes, or people just saying mean things about my religion, other stuff like that. I guess they'll meet their maker one day, but people still make the jokes. Like, you can't just stop jokes because they offend you. You can stop listening to jokes and stop supporting comedians who offend you. But to just have the goal to be like, we're gonna basically give our company demands is insane. And then Netflix, they stood their ground with cuties. That was like their hot thing they had in the front. It wasn't a like back order thing that you had to go to the dark side of the Netflix app to pull that up. That was right there. That was right there. These little girls twerking. And the twerking wasn't even the worst of it. There was like a scene when she actually like takes a picture of her vagina, I think. And there's like a weird sort of, I don't know, twerking sort of exorcism. Weird. I mean, there's some weird stuff. And it very provocative, very gross with the cuties thing. People covered it, at least in the right circles, like all the like when it happened, like crazy. But they stood by that. They stood by cuties. And they stand by other things that they make that people do want to boycott sometimes, you know. But they keep pushing out the content. When people were really mad about He-Man not too long ago, Kevin Smith was laughing. He's like, Netflix doesn't care. They don't care about bad reviews. They killed He-Man. Kevin Smith straight up like lied about like how much involvement he had versus Tila and so on, who they made like the main character. And the nerds were unhappy. And why Netflix had to do this, I don't know, because they literally had a She-Ra cartoon that was for like, I don't know, non-binary gay chicks. I don't know. They had their woke piece of literature. They didn't need to do this with He-Man, but they decided to do it anyway. And they're just laughing to the bank about it. And Netflix, he's like, Netflix doesn't care. And I don't think they're going to stop doing Dave Chappelle's special. Ben Shapiro said he hopes that he does stop doing with Netflix and they come over to new areas. They said Daily Wire would love to have these people because they're expanding their entertainment realm. But I'm going to show you something. I wrote an article some time ago about Netflix and just some of the scandals that they had going on. So this is an article on blacktnews.com. And so they actually had like major pedophile scandals on Netflix. So I wrote about a few. And so they had a show called Cheer. And so Jerry Lewis, you may recognize this young man because he interviewed the president of the United States, Joe Biden. Because they didn't really believe in him sitting down with a lot of like real journalists. Though he did a few interviews, but they would have people like Jerry Lewis, Cardi B or whatever to get up and have interviews with the president. Man, they probably wish that they didn't do this since he was investigated by the FBI because for allegedly soliciting sex from minors. Twins, 14-year-old twin brothers. So he wanted like Snapchats of them, naked pictures and videos, and suggesting they meet up and do all kinds of other sexual stuff. And the mother found a video of Harris masturbating on her son's phone. So that was gross. The TV show You, they had an actor on there who played a pedophile, and he actually got accused of some women of that. Chris D'Ella, he denied it. He said, I know I have said and done things that have offended people during my career, but I've never knowingly pursued any underage women at any point. I've never met or exchanged any inappropriate photos with the people who have tweeted about me. That being said, I'm really, truly sorry. I was a dumb guy who absolutely let myself get caught up in my lifestyle. That's my fault. I own it. I've been reflecting on this for some time now, and I promise I will never continue. But I've been reflecting on this for some time now, and I promise I will continue to do better. So that was his statement. And of course, um, Underwood, we got House of Cards, and which was one of their like premiere shows. I did not watch the last season. They had some crazy stuff in House of Cards, crazy stuff. But Kevin Spacey was accused, and he had his big Me Too thing, people coming out, and remember when he came out, he was like, "Oh, I'm a gay man. I choose to live as a gay man now." So he got killed off on the show, and they just did the ending season with Claire. And I read about it, and it sounded terrible, so I was glad I didn't watch it. He even did this super creepy video. I'm not gonna play it, but it's on the website. And it was super creepy about the whole thing. I don't even know why you would do that. And he did it like in a Frank Underwood sort of way about the sexual assault allegations. It was so weird. It was so weird. And then of course we got cuties. And so many people stood up for it. Actress Tessa Thompson, she was in Dear White People. She's in the movie Westworld. Well, that's a TV show. She's in Thor Ragnarok. She plays Valkyrie. She stood up for cuties. She thought she was disappointed in the discourse. She said on Twitter, and she's one of the verified people who stuck up for it. And Ted Cruz and other people like went to Netflix to call it pornography. So it was a big deal at the time. Tulsi Gabbard said something about it. That it's basically, whetting the appetite of pedophiles. So Netflix stood by cuties. Netflix stood by cuties. Of course, they did their final season of House of Cards. I don't know if Cheers is still on there, but there was some really shady stuff that's happened at Netflix over the years. And I don't know what will end up happening with Dave Chappelle specials and stuff. He said he's not going to be doing another one for a while. And at the end of the day, a lot of people are still going to go to Netflix because they pay them a lot of money, and streaming is huge, right? But for if they decide to no longer have stuff with Dave Chappelle, I just want to remind people that what they're willing to stand by, because Cuties was out there, was really out there, really really out there. So it's an interesting time we live in, people. Interesting time. Uh, so back to the DOJ and Merrick Garland on the Capitol, and people talking about, one, they're grilling him about parents and how they don't want their kids doing all this critical race theory stuff. And so parents have gone to these meetings and people haven't liked that. So they're pushing back on the parents. So there was a letter written, and we talked about the letter on the show. And it literally cites one of the examples, that father in Loudoun County who went there because his daughter was sexually assaulted. He got into a tiff with the police. He was arrested. The local prosecutor tried to, there's just like a George Soros soft on crime sort of prosecutor, showed up personally to try to prosecute a father who showed up at the school board meeting because his daughter was sexually assaulted. This is so how much these people have it in for parents trying to stick up for their kids. So anyway, in the letter they said, "Hey, can the DOJ do something?" And they mentioned the Patriot Act of all things to use to try to stop people from being violent against his teachers or threats and so on. So mind you, all the stuff that would happen would be local things. So it doesn't make sense that there be any sort of federal move on those things. Unless they did rise to the level of terrorism or something. But when you have to cite a dad who got into a little scuffle because he got kind of excited because he was emotionally upset about his daughter being sexually assaulted, and that's like the poster boy you would have used for trying to weaponize the DOJ to go after parents trying to protect their kids. And so Merrick Garland and them, they wrote out a response, but did they even really look into thoroughly these allegations and stuff? No. their proof was the letter that was sent to them. So I'm really glad Merrick Garland did not end up on the Supreme Court, but I don't think it's good that he's an attorney general. And I thought there were some red flags from him when they were doing their confirmation hearings, but honestly, I didn't expect our Republicans to just block that. I think they should have. I think they should have tried to block way more of Biden's appointees. And if they had to break the tie, they could just break the tie. They could at least resist the way that they were resisting us, man. They could have did something. But this is pretty funny. This is really, someone was grilling him about Hunter Biden and the unethical standards of his art deals.
In general, I'd like to direct your attention to the easel behind me. The first painting is a Claude Monet.
I'm sorry, I can't read any of the words.
You don't need to. Okay. You just need to look at this great painting right here.
It's a very beautiful painting.
It is beautiful, and it is listed at Christie's for $700,000. Now, Claude Monet was the founder of the Impressionist movement, something I didn't know until I researched it. The second painting is a Degas. Another world-renowned artist, and this painting sold for $500,000. The third painting, you may recognize this name, is a Hunter Biden.
I don't recognize the painting.
The Hunter Biden painting sold for $500,000 also. Now, you may think that such an exclusive, that when Hunter Biden is in such exclusive company, that he would have a background, artistic training, for example. But you would be wrong if you thought that. And you might think that he had some sort of apprenticeship with a world-renowned artist, but you would be wrong again if you thought that. Or perhaps that he has been selling his works for years, and again, unfortunately, you would be wrong. It turns out that in 2019, Hunter Biden couldn't find a gallery to list his art. And what happened in 2020 that changed all that? His dad became president of the United States. Now, a single piece of art from Hunter Biden sells for more than the average American home. This art arrangement is so suspicious that the Obama administration ethics czar, Walter Schaub, tweeted on July 10th of this year, Hunter Biden should cancel this art sale because he knows the prices are based on his dad's job. Shame on POTUS if he doesn't ask Hunter to stop. By the way, Mr. Attorney General, this is the same Hunter Biden who's being investigated by your department and the IRS for tax fraud. Selling fakes or having a fake skill set is nothing new to Hunter Biden. When his dad was vice president, Hunter Biden received $50,000 a month from a Ukrainian oligarch to sit on a board of an energy company. What was Hunter Biden's background in energy? Not
a darn thing. So I had a conversation with my sister some time ago who she paints. She has so many like little teeny tiny like oil paintings are so good. She also does text portraits. Like she could draw a picture of you, but she would do it with just words. So it could be a phrase, it could be your name. And she does it by hand. There's people who do like text art, but she actually does it by hand. So they're very, very special pieces. And if you're looking for a special gift for the holidays, you should look up Tina's text portraits. So, but anyway, she's worked so hard on her craft, and I'm like, how does it make you feel? The Hunter Biden can just blow paint with straws and create these pieces, and so it's a little frustrating, but she just does her grind. But obviously, Hunter Biden doing these projects and getting paid for them was some kind of ethical issue, and he's getting paid for access. He's getting paid because he is the son of the president. Now, famous people get all kinds of kudos and when they launch something anyway. So just because he is the son of the president, obviously he's going to get a lot more money. But it goes a little deeper than that usually with the politics. I mean, Hillary Clinton, the Clintons, they when they left the White House, at least in her words, she said they were broke, they were in debt, they had to pay for legal fees and all kind of other stuff because husband did all kinds of shady stuff and so on in the office. But she claimed they left the White House broke. And I do remember stories about them like taking drapes from the White House, and I don't I don't remember how much of that is actually like accurate, whatever. But I heard crazy stories like when they left the White House. But obviously they rose in status and a lot of money and so on. But they would go somewhere, the Clinton Foundation or whoever, they would get a lot of money for doing speeches, and the speeches didn't have to be long or anything, but they would get a lot of money for speeches. And so people are paying for access, and people are also paying for favors and so on. So there's a lot of shady stuff that came out with Clinton Foundation in 2016. And I guess it was mostly 2016 during the campaign trail stuff that also probably helped, aid in Trump winning when the information came out. I mean, I certainly used it in videos and pieces when I worked at the Michigan Republican Party. So I don't think really this is probably that much different. I mean, when people were paying Hunter Biden when he was doing the oil and the gas and so on, and they were like paying him, and then there's like the cut for the big man. So obviously Biden's in on the deal somehow. People don't want to talk about that. My question is, what are they getting out of the deal? What's the trade-off? Because they're doing it for a reason. Now, when they show Hunter Biden's photo pictures, which I thought was funny that they laughed, even Garland seemed amused. Even obviously they're setting him up, to dunk on him and to dunk on Biden, but he still, giggled or at least sounded amused. There was people who like flat out laughed. I didn't think his paintings were that bad, but I think they're kind of more like spend $20 and let him hang in the I don't know, Cadobas or something. They're not $500,000 pieces. And then after, Biden is no longer president, are they going to hold any sort of long-term value like paintings normally do? Of course not. Of course not. He got paid for some kind of access, some kind of reason people are paying for it. It's not just because he has a famous dad. There's a lot of famous people out there. For that much money, people are paying for some kind of favor. It's a scam. And the question is, what are they getting in return? So Merrick Garland, there's a lot of shady things going on. There's a lot of shady things going on. But I think the worst thing right now is the weaponization of the Justice Department against these parents, or how they're trying to weaponize it against parents who want to stand up for their kids. Obviously, they're trying to intimidate them. And they're trying to intimidate them because parents are energized about defending their kids. Man, the race in Virginia is tight. And Youngkin, who is running as a Republican the Republican to take over as in Virginia, he is in polls, he has trended ahead. I've seen some headlines that say that he's going to look like he's ahead, and then he's going to lose. So people are kind of like prepping, like, oh shoot, they're going to try to take it again. I hope the parents realize the sort of insanity going on, and they stand up and say, we can't have this anymore. We have to stand up for our children. Like, you can believe whatever you want with whatever ideology, but I think most people just really want to be left alone. And people go along with some of the woke ideology stuff because they don't want to hurt people's feelings. But when it comes to a point where you guys can't even hold someone accountable for sexually assaulting a young girl because you're trying to protect your ideology, that's when people need to stand up and say that enough is enough. Enough is enough. And that's why this Dave Chappelle stuff is relevant, because you can't even make jokes because someone is such a protected class. And because people know that they can hide behind that LGBT because they are such protected class, that's when you will have people just associating who are just predators, not people who have been diagnosed, have gone through the therapy through the years and actually, you are a legit person with gender dysphoria. There was a story about a boy who, I guess it was a man, who wore a wig and was just in the bathroom taking pictures of women. And I saw that on TikTok. Somebody in the comments was like, this is why I carry everywhere I go. And you should. You absolutely should. But this county covered up what happened to this young girl in Loudoun County. And I'm so glad that Daily Wire really pursued the story, and the more people are talking about it, I'm glad that these parents are holding the school board accountable, that someone did resign, but they need to keep pressing until the superintendent resigns, and they needed to make sure that they vote red. I mean, there's a lot of people who like travel to like DC and stuff, so it is like a they should be having a hard time, but I think there's a cultural shift. And when we there was a big cultural shift in 2016. People, I don't think enough people talk about Trump winning because of the cultural shift. He was like the right man at the right time, and he just really took advantage of how the nation felt. And at that time, the wokeness we were dealing with was what, like radical feminism, kind of crazy stuff on the college campuses, like the gender pronoun stuff was a conversation, but and that's when like Jordan Peterson started to sort of rise off of attention off of that in Canada, when they were trying to get him to say certain pronouns of students, and he's like, I'm not for compelled speech. And I know they started to do that on some of the college campuses, but it wasn't, and there was the whole racial equity stuff, but it wasn't as profound as it was back then. And now obviously it's far worse. And you have people at the very top of the food chain pushing this nonsense. So if we don't push back right now as hard as we can, we're going to get to a point where we reach the point of no return. But we can take things back, and it starts in 2022. I think this Virginia race, if it goes red, man, Democrats are going to freak out, and hopefully they will change trajectory on issues, because you would just like for the country to just be less crazy. Even your adversaries, I would like them to be less crazy, even if it makes it harder for us to win, because people kind of come back to the center. I would rather have that than just have us be so polarized and them being so aggressively crazy, especially because they're more militant about being on the move than we are. They are aggressive and we are reactionary. They push, we react. And sometimes they overtake. And then sometimes you'll get a Trump. Sometimes. And maybe there'll be a return of the Trump. Maybe we will have a DeSantis, which is kind of like a Trump, but a little bit more refined. And I think better in some ways. And I think sometimes it kind of is too much of a little impression of him. But I do like DeSantis. I'm not going to lie. I really do. But we'll see where it goes. Speaking of the former president, Trump, and as far as acting, he still refers to himself that way, and a lot of people still do. And dear God, I wish he was still the president right now, acting in official capacity anyway. He did announce that they are starting a social media chain, a social media platform, and they're also going to do streaming. So I think that's really interesting, because that is what I was talking about. I think maybe a day ago, I think it was to you guys I mentioned this. I think that's what Trump should do. And it was in the ethos, I guess, talking about the social media platform, but it would seem that they are now at a point where they're actually pushing for it, which is a good thing.
After being silenced by Facebook and Twitter for months, former U.S. President Donald Trump said Wednesday he'll be launching his own social media platform, Truth Social. Trump was kicked out of several social networks following the January 6 Capitol Hill riots. In a press release on Wednesday, he said his new app is being created to, quote, fight back against the big tech companies of Silicon Valley, which he says silences opposing voices in America. Truth Social will be launched through a new company, a merger between Trump Media and Technology Group, or TMTG, and Digital World Acquisition Group. That's a special purpose acquisition company, already listed on the NASDAQ. The merger will allow TMTG to also be listed on the stock exchange, as well as give it access to Digital World's cash, raised from its IPO. According to the press release, that cash amounts to $293 million, assuming none of that firm's shareholders choose to redeem their shares. The impending deal values Trump's company at $875 million. but the merger is not yet complete. Both companies have said that would depend on shareholder redemptions not exceeding a minimum cash requirement. The press release said a beta version of Truth Social will be available to invited guests next month. It also said that in the future, TMTG intends to launch a streaming service featuring non-woke entertainment programming, as well as a cloud service which it hopes will rival Google and Amazon.
So that's all good news, especially if it all works out. I'm gonna be honest though, I don't really like the name of the Truth because it sounds a little pretentious, I guess. And Trump's a little bit more fun than that. So what are the obstacles? The obstacles is that if it is just too, it's the alternative, obviously, to what we sort of have right now. But there's a wide, you know, variety of people who are on like Facebook and Twitter and so on. So you need more than just people who are your supporters, even though he has millions of supporters. But to get the sort of traction that they're going to need, it doesn't need to be Trumpian. And I don't know how much they're going to market it and how much it's going to be. I mean, they're saying it's just like a platform, everyone come on it. But we'll see. It depends how they brand it and how it functions. Functionality will overcome a lot. I really like I complained about people coming at me on TikTok, but I do really like the app. There's certain features about it that I just really, really like. Like I like someone who can write a comment. I love that I can video reply. I'm more likely to video reply than probably type something out, especially if I think I can make good content out of your comment. And I love that feature. And then they also opened it up that you can be on someone else's video and do a reply to someone's comment under that. So that was a power that I also loved as well. So I really like, for like a debate sort of nature, if there wasn't so many like airheads on the app, like it's pretty good. It's pretty great. Now there's some things that don't maybe lend to like the smaller format of time. I did a reply video and someone was like, "Oh, you left some stuff out." And I'm like, "This is TikTok, not YouTube." So I can't, I got the points that I wanted to get to. So if it's a really well thought out platform, I think it can really overcome people's biases, especially as word of mouth gets around. But we'll see. We'll see. It is definitely possible. I saw some reports, people reporting this, saying that it's doomed to fail because Trump is too political and will never really be able to compete with Facebook and Twitter and so on. And I think what Trump and the team is probably considering or hoping is that people will just flock off of these platforms and then go over to his. And I definitely think there's a lot of people waiting to do that. But they're going to have to see what are their alternatives and if their alternatives are better. People were really into MySpace. I used to spend a lot of time on MySpace, but MySpace is like a ghost thing now. People aren't really, they left that in a hurry to get to Facebook. Facebook launched or became a big thing in 08 maybe or something. Like when I first joined, I had like a edu account and that's what you had to have to join it. So it's not impossible to overthrow something and become the next big thing. And there's a lot more people getting on TikTok because it's overtaking as the big thing. And I saw like Daily Wire and other people moved on to start getting TikTok accounts because people probably said you need to get on TikTok. And people told me I had to get on TikTok. And I'm glad that I listened to those people. So if they have a really solid platform that excites people, I think it can overcome some of the challenges that they're looking for. But I am excited that they're talking about doing a streaming service. And I said that I think that's what they need to be focused on because we have a whole big culture war going on and we need to push back and we need to have alternatives. But people are also very hungry for good content that isn't so woke. Well, that isn't woke and that isn't really provocative either. I think that's one reason why a lot of people like Korean dramas, for example. Like my sisters really love it, but they're extraordinarily popular. And there are some that have like violence and R rated R and other stuff like that, and may have sexual explicit content. But a lot of people watch stuff that is so innocent, that's really innocent, and there's content that I enjoy, like that we let's maybe on premium channels and something like that. That's like I won't watch because premium channels are so devoted to having um a flash of boob or something like that when it's not necessary. Now I don't know if they're gonna basically be a. I'm not saying I know if their streaming service is gonna go that route, but I'm just saying I think people are hungry for better content. Um, and I've encouraged people to make different content. I've talked about my content, and I used to always just sort of have a dream of having some of my things, like if my books or whatever were adapted. I used to think like, oh, it'd be great to have it a movie. Oh, it'd be great to go on the CW. I would never do anything on any of those, like on that network. I would never do anything like that. In my opinion now, is I told my sisters like I think I just rather have everything animated. I want my own studio and people just animate my stories and go from there and basically be like anime style, which I think would be great. And people are also abandoning American comic books and going to manga because they don't have all that woke stuff. Because they just focus on their characters. They don't keep recycle. See the problem with normal American comic books. Obviously, these characters have been around for a very long time, so they'll keep rebooting them and they'll keep kind of doing new stories. But now people are just basically taking these emblems to tell their woke stories. They don't care about the characters. They they don't care about their legacies. All they want is that merchandise, that bat symbol on the chest. They want that S on the chest. They want to make Superman gay, so now they can start selling Superman rainbow S's and all this other kind of stuff. It's all a big marketing ploy, a lot with when they have Pride Month and other stuff like that anyway. But they don't care about the actual characters and the legacy. They resent some of these fans that they have. And so another thing I was talking to with my Bible study is that I think we're at the point where we're going to have to let a lot of these big legacies just die. That we're going to have to let them go. And when I told them about Superman dropping American Way and about Superman's son story, they were like, I guess I'm not buying no Superman superhero stuff for my nieces and whoever. So they were just like, oh, no more. And they're not into it as much as like we were into it growing up. But we're gonna have to let this stuff go. But people aren't going to let that stuff go unless they have really good alternatives. So I think it's good that, because obviously Trump has connections and influence and power and money, even though he doesn't, he's no longer the president of the United States. I don't know why he'd want to actually come back and do the job. I mean, he's chilling in Mar-a-Lago, having the time of his life. You know, people still call him Mr. President and really like and respect him. And but I think this is like a really good position for him to go to really, because he is a culture warrior in a lot of regards, and he did a lot of great things as president. And it would be, whoever is the next president, it'll be very, very important what they do as they try to drive the country forward. But I think the culture war is extraordinarily important, and if he can be a driving factor in being competitive with the stuff that we're seeing, I think that's amazing. I think that is great. But he's got to pull it off. And he should be able to. I love The Apprentice. I adored The Apprentice. I wanted to win The Apprentice. I love that show. And I attended my very first Lincoln dinner because Trump was the speaker. But he can make really, really good content. And so they can start out their streaming service doing a couple of reality TV shows, and then they can break off. And it wasn't Netflix is a really huge thing right now. But they just had a couple shows at first, like Orange is the New Black and House of Cards, and I guess some other things. And now they pump out new movies, new TV shows all the time, and they pick up other properties and they stream it. So and I don't think people mind multiple TV streaming things. Especially there's things that are new that are just are free now. I have a free one on my phone. I'm assuming they're gonna have to pay for a streaming service, but there's gonna be enough people that want to. So I hope it does well. I hope it's very focused in their direction, and he knows how to run a business. Some people say, he's not a good businessman because you can name a handful of a few things that failed out of 600 subsidiaries. He's so good at branding. He's so good at branding. So I wish him the best. I'm very, very happy about this. I just hope we can pull it off. I'm optimistic. And I'm glad they're doing the social media because we do need that alternative. But I'm really glad to see that they're going to do a streaming platform. I really am. Good luck to you, Mr. President. And that is it for the show today. Please visit blacktnews.com and check out the different content that I have on the website. Please check out the merchandise, like the My Money, My Business shirt. I've got the different Trump pumpkin spice chibi shirts. Those are unisex, so you can get that male or female. Also got them in the cute little mugs, so you can check that out. I did talk about different content that I have as a creator. I do have different books that I've written. Super Kid 2. I've got young adult, new adult, children's chapter books. Right now, my sister that I mentioned who does the art, she is right now working on a book for me. She's doing the illustrations for a book that I wrote for my nephew some years ago. So I'm excited. Our deadline is we're going to try to have it out that people can order it for Christmas. And as soon as she gets some solid illustrations out, I will be happy to share them with you guys. But it's a very cute book and you really like it. And I really needed some picture books because I go to convention and these kids are excited because they see these colorful characters, and it's a comic book convention. So people think there's a bunch of pictures and stuff. So they open it up and there's a bunch of words, and so it'd be nice that next time be like, here's some pictures for you, kid. So I'm happy about that. And I think you guys will really like it, and you'll like what I also have already. Please make sure that you guys, if you want to support, make sure that you're liking the page on Facebook, on YouTube, on Instagram, on TikTok. All my handles are at Black Tea News, except on Twitter, it's at True Black Tea. So make sure that you guys are sharing, telling other people to like, subscribe, and so on. And also, if you would like to support, you can go to blacktnews.com/donate if you like what I do and you want to expand blacktnews.com. Thank you very much for being supportive when you buy the shirts or when you share articles and so on. But please consider leaving a donation if you can. God bless you guys, and I will see you tomorrow.